Hey guys, welcome back to Ruck and Roll Rugby. And boy, I have to say, shocking news came out regarding the laws of rugby. Now, guys, you have the sense that World Rugby is really just trying to create another rugby league, really, which I don't understand. Why move away from traditional rugby union? There's been a good combination between, your forward type rugby and your backline type rugby so that you can see both. We want to see that brute strength. We want to see, the game be a tough game where it's one up front first before it goes to the back line to just run it. If we didn't want that, we'll go watch sevens or we'll go watch rugby league. I mean, obviously, that is why we've got these other forms of rugby. I just don't understand what they're trying to achieve with this whole thing. And it definitely looks like it's definitely a bit directed at the Springboks, knowing that the Springboks is such a strong front pack and forward type team. Now, the problem with this is it really does not encourage any young rugby players to want to be forwards. It just doesn't. And it does not encourage anyone really in rugby to not decide they want to rather go watch rugby league or sevens or any other type sport that's fast and running. The point of rugby union is that it is a contact sport. It gets one up front. The scrums is an integral part of the game. And now what we're really seeing with these laws is scrums will be less and less in games. And guys, the biggest problem is kicking will be more and more and more, which is something that, funny enough, the Springboks was criticized for, which will now be a thing that will just happen more and more. Box kicks. Number 10s just going for the kicks, 50-22s. They get rewarded for kicking and they get rewarded for running type rugby, but no rewards for forwards and the forward type play really, well, minimally, And just when you look at these laws, some of them are crazy silly. Now, the first one is the onside from a kick in open play. Now, the Pont used to expose this quite a bit. Now, guys, when I'm saying exposed, do I see that as a loophole? Yes. And when I'm saying a loophole, what's the repercussions of it? Well, at the end of the day, you get an advantage by just kicking the ball in open play. And then suddenly, you are onside, which never made any sense. So it made total sense to change that. No issues with changing that law. The next law is the big one that I'm talking about, free kicks. Under the law, you will no longer be possible to choose a scrum from a free kick. Free kicks must either be tapped or kicked to encourage the ball to flow. The problem with that now is every time when there's a scrum and you've got a team that's not as strong in their scrums as the other, they will just try and, force a penalty. They'll try and collapse the scrum. They'll just waste time. They will, your hooker with the break foot, he will not put his break foot out. There's like tons of different things that the opposing team will do, which now creates a new loophole. So it's like creating a new law just to end up with more loopholes, because now every team that really can't match up front and is just not strong enough up front, and towards the end of the games, it's probably going to happen all the time. It's going to be insane that they'll just force the free kicks. Yes, that means the other team does get the advantage of the free kick, but still, I mean, the scrums is a high risk, high reward type approach. If you think about it, if you go for the scrum, you're putting it into that risk where you can lose that scrum and lose that ball. So to me, what is the repercussions of this law change? It is basically taking scrums away. There was nothing wrong with the law because it could be to the advantage of both teams. So it just made no sense for changing this law, except for me thinking that, hey, Springboks have now won 2 World Cups. They're just too strong up front. Looking at some other teams even, the All Blacks are strong up front. Even Ireland is strong up front. Now you're going to get teams that is with the likes of a Scotland, Argentina still like their scrums. But I mean, a lot of the teams, maybe Australia in the future, forcing the free kick because they know they can no longer really match up front, which is an easy way out. It's a get out of jail card, guys. So that's really going to impact the game with the big players, with the big forwards. Now you're going to see the big forwards are getting less on the field. You know, it's going to impact the whole thing of, you know, really bringing on some big boys in the second half to enforce, you know, some, you know, power. And it's really going to affect the whole game. You will no longer see these 7-1 splits. You will not see any of this. You cannot tell me there's not something exciting about all of that. And I mean, it's all, you know, it was within the laws of the games. Now they're really trying to make this just really a kicking game. It's going to get so boring to just see everyone kick. It'll be an aerial battle back and forth. And you'll just be like, oh, at last the scrum. Someone deliberately concedes the scrum and here we go again with a kick. So it's just going to become like running rugby. It's going to become like touch rugby, man. Not touch rugby, but I mean like league bloody sevens rugby. So it's just going away from the DNA of what rugby's always been. It's been a physical, brutal, upfront game, and people love that. That's why they love the game. It's the same reason why people watch UFC or boxing. They want to see the violence. Sorry to say, but that is the fact. They want to see it. Doesn't mean it should be within the laws of the game. Obviously, the high tackles I get. You know, the other law that they've taken away is the crocodile tackle. I get that, you know. I can recall Dwayne Vermeulen really injuring young Ivan Ruiz like that with a crocodile tackle, which was, you know, legal still. So I understand when it's the repercussions is injuries, but injuries or taking advantage of the laws, I get that. But there is no advantage by taking away the scrum, you know, with free kicks and not being able to reset and re-scrum, because now we will only see one scrum. And if one team deliberately just wants to, you know, concede that free kick, they will. Because it's less of a risk for them to force them to rather do lineouts if they're better at lineouts than having to go back and face the scrums if they're not good at their scrums. So it's taking a whole dynamic out of the game. And it's just ridiculous. Anyway, guys, those are the big three law changes. Other law changes that I just have to say, the introduction of the 30-second shot clock from a scrum and lineout setting, protection of a 9 at the base of the scrum. Another one. I mean, where are we going with rugby? Following successful trials of Major League Rugby in the USA. Major League Rugby in the USA. I mean, that is who World Rugby is now using as an example for what they want to do. Now they're saying the 9 will no longer be able to be played while the ball is still near a tackle, ruck or maul. I mean, this was part of the game, is that you'd be able to, those scrummies sniping around the rucks. That's where you saw the awesome Aaron Smiths, Gibson Park, great at that. Now you take all of that away. I mean, surely all rugby fans, if you're a Springbok supporter or anyone else, got to think this is a little bit crazy. I mean, the next one, the ability to mark the ball in the 22-meter line from a restart. That means if you're in your own 22, now you can just mark the ball. Again, kicking and line out. So the whole game is going to be line outs, kicking, running. No contact, no catching the ball, taking, you know, the contact and getting some kind of mauls created or scrums created or rucks created. It's trying to totally take the contact out of the game. It's like the ball must be played after the maul has been stopped once, not twice. Again, I get the point of speeding it up, but that totally ruins mauls. So you're ruining mauls, you're ruining scrums. Don't you like forwards, World Rugby? I mean, there are amazing forwards coming forward in rugby now, coming through the ranks. And this is going to kill it, man. And then play on a line out if a ball is not thrown straight, play on. If the ball is not thrown straight, but only if the line out is uncontested, can the game go on. So if the line out is uncontested, the ball can just go. Doesn't matter if it's thrown in skew. Who thought of these things? Just like, guys, I don't know. I mean, guys, I just wanted to share what I thought of these laws. You guys might have your own opinions. I'm sure some of these you're like, oh, I get what World Rugby is doing. They want to make it faster. But don't take away our contact, man. Don't take away our mauls. Don't take away our scrums. And don't create new loopholes by now just saying, oh, you can only get a free kick. So only one scrum and then you concede a free kick. So it's very easy now for the opposing teams, if they've got weak scrums, if they've got weak mauls, to expose this. So you're just creating new loopholes. And this is going to be in favor of some teams and in favor of not others, one being the world champs. Now, if you see the brand of rugby and how it's building across the world, you could see how people enjoy Chasing the Sun documentary. Well, these that have seen it, if you haven't, if you can, go and give it a watch. It's building the brand of rugby. It had the best attendances ever. How many scrums did we see? We saw a lot, like Georgia. What amazing scrums. You know, big scrums and some amazing scrums that we saw through this World Cup, this last World Cup. Why do you want to go, you know, change things that is working in World Rugby and wanting to make it something else? Like, I don't know, Rugby League or wanting to make it sevens. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I think a lot of people I've seen around, I also don't get it. And I just thought I would put this video out because, guys, it's worth discussing. We can't change this, but where are we going with the game of rugby? Kicking, line out, run the ball. Kicking, line out, run the ball. Smaller players, no enforcers on the field anymore because you want smaller guys who is just quicker, that can just move the ball. No big boys anymore. No more guys that don't eat salads. That's just big boys that want to go in there and really enforce themselves. Now it's no longer a weight advantage thing. You're taking out so much of the game that we have loved so much. And I'm hoping, you know, World Rugby at some point is going to review and change their minds again, like they've been doing all along, changing their minds every 6 months. But let's see. It's going to be a very interesting tour of Ireland to South Africa with all of these laws in place now. Because we know how hungry Ireland is to prove they feel they are the best in the world. The Springboks will be just as hungry to prove that point, that even though we didn't beat you at the World Cup, we are the better team. But they're going in with a lot of disadvantages now because the Springboks do have that one thing over other teams, and that is an amazing forward pack. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Springboks deal with this and how Rusty deals with this. But I mean, we know the guy can always get another plan. He's a man with a plan, always. Anyway, guys, it doesn't matter if you're not a Springbok supporter and you're like, yeah, this guy's just another Springbok supporter, pro Springboks. It's good for the game. Think about what you're saying, because you will also, your team will also be affected by this law when you are playing teams with weaker scrums, and then you'll also feel the pain. And when you're sitting at home watching the game on a Saturday, you'll be like, oh, this is getting so boring. Kick, line out, kick. Come on, man. Come on, guys. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. Gonna catch you in the next one. Cheers, bye.